Councillor Karen. Okay, Ross.
Well, good afternoon all. This being the appointed time for the April meeting of the Snowy Valleys Council. Commence proceedings by asking Councillor Ham if she's provide the acknowledgement.
Good afternoon. Snowy Valleys Council acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout our council area and their continuing connection to land and community. We pay our respects to them and their cultures and to the elders, both past and present. Today we're meeting on Nagaria Land.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ham. I'll now give the preamble. Live streaming of council meetings. This meeting is live streamed on council's website to allow the community to follow council's debate and deliberations. Members of the public participating in a meeting agree to have their images, voice and personal information, including names and address, recorded and publicly broadcast. Snowy Valleys Council does not accept liability or any defamatory remarks, inappropriate comments that are made during the course of the meeting. Any part of the meeting that is held in closed session will not be streamed. Councillors are reminded of the oath of affirmation of office they made under section 233A of the Local Government Act 1993 and the obligations under council's code of conduct to disclose and appropriately manage conflicts of interest. The use of mobile phones. Please ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off and are in silent mode for the duration of the meeting, and no recording of voice or images is permitted. In the event of emergency, please evacuate the building using the nearest exit. Follow the instructions given by the warning and do not use the lift. You could find that difficult as there is no lift. If participating in the meeting room from an alternative venue, please enact the evacuation plan for the location required. We'll go to item 2, apologies, leave of absence and remote attendance. We do have, I believe, a leave of absence from Councillor Idle, and we also have a request for remote attendance from Councillor Hayes. Would someone move that Councillor Hayes? Councillor Larder, is there a second? Pardon me, Councillor Ham. We'll put the motion. All those in favour, against, carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest. I do believe we have one from Councillor Larder dealing with the item regarding, what's the number there, Mr. General Manager?
10.7.
Thank you, Councillor Larder. Item 10.7. Are there any others? If not, we'll go to, pardon me, confirmation of the minutes. Count ordinary meeting on the 16th of March. We moved by Councillor Thompson. Is there a seconder? Councillor Livermore. I'll put, prior to putting the motion, are there any matters arising? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carol. We have correspondence and petitions, Mr. General Manager.
No, Mr. Mayor.
Notice of motions or rescissions.
Mr. Mayor,
Sorry.
just having trouble with the mute on this, but just one thing arising from the minutes 10.4, the Cam Coben long lunch. I went back and had a bit of a look after that came through council, and to describe it as a resounding success, I thought was a bit of hyperbole there. I had a look at, it was actually subsidised about $287 per person, and the actual participants also paid $100. So a meal that is delivered for slightly under $400 a head for lunch is, I think, a bit excessive. It's just a statement.
Yeah,
But I don't think you can describe it as a resounding success.
Mr. Mayor, the adoption of the minutes is purely as to whether the minutes are a factual matter, and it's not really an opportunity to rediscuss matters that were addressed at the previous meeting, only to confirm or otherwise the factual nature of the minutes. So
I agree with you wholeheartedly. However, I think it's important that whilst they might be a factual representation, we need to be mindful of how we spend our money.
I think it also brings to the point, Mr. Mayor, that we need a lot more information in some of the reports than we're actually getting.
We'll take that notice on notice.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor, in that the adoption of the previous minutes is exactly that, and the report, the time to raise the concerns would have been the previous report. So this is purely about accepting the minutes as accurate.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. We've taken that comment on board, Councillor Hayes. There's no mayoral minute. There's no urgent business without notice. We'll go to item 9.1, public swimming pool entry fee.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move it with a new recommendation, please, and I believe we may have the wording for that on the screen.
Been moved. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ham. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor.
Let's see what it's,
Any debate?
It's coming up.
Yeah.
let's see what it is before we move.
And Mr. Mayor, may I suggest that we move into committee just so that people can make the comments
It's
that
been
need to be
moved by
made.
Councillor Thompson. Is there a seconder to move into committee? Councillor Hughes, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, carried. We're in committee now. Councillor Thompson, do you wish to start the discussion or is there something else?
I'm happy to commence discussion. I think what we need to understand is that it was probably never going to be an ongoing thing, that the pools would always be free, and that we need to be looking at how do we introduce a level of payments. What we believe we've done in reducing even the original recommended fees is to put it in such a way that the encouragement is actually to encourage people to buy an affordable family pass, which actually gives them access to any pool across the Snowy Valleys Council area. This is not linked only to one swimming pool. The opportunity is still there for our school students to be accessing any of the pools or the sporting facilities as part of the school under the $5 a year fee that is proposed that students pay. And I think that this is an opportunity for us to start looking at how do we recoup something within our swimming pools.
Any further comments?
Can I just ask, there
Councillor Lara?
was some information in that report, Mr. Mayor, that suggested that the police crime had gone up. What were the figures in relation to the crime statistics?
You wish to answer that?
Sorry, could you repeat the question? I was just remembering.
There was an inference there that as a result of the free pool, that the pool had become a honeypot for crime, indicating that the police were basically there all the time. So, was there any figures or like?
Yes, the advice that was provided that council was regularly in the order of twice per week as a standard practice, having to contact or call the police out to our swimming pools, predominantly to tune
Antisocial behaviour.
antisocial behaviour.
Criminal. Any further debate, discussion on the issue?
Look, I come back to hyperbole again. I chased that up a little while ago. Since 2016, the police have been to the Chimney Pool 16 times. They haven't been to Adelong, they haven't been to Batlow, they've been to Tumba Pool 4 times, and they've been to Cancoven once. That's since 2016. So once again, the information we're getting in reports is not accurate and is prone to hyperbole. So, we're making decisions on inferences and untrue advice. And I think, it appears that we've been misled and the general manager's obviously been misled as well. So, it's really disappointing and it's hard to make decisions based on the information that's being provided to us. So that's just one example at the moment.
I take on board your comments there. I don't know that it has a great impact on setting the fees. I do agree if that's the case, and I have no reason to doubt it, that the information could stand correction. But as I said, I see that I don't think it has an impact on establishment of fees, and I think if we take into consideration the antisocial behaviour and the fact that we're going to charge a fee, I'm not sure that that's going to correct that situation. However, the situation remains that we're probably primarily discussing imposition of fees in the swimming pool agenda in Snowy Valleys Council. So is there anybody else? Councillor
Just in regard to the statistics, can we get some confirmation about how the numbers were derived? Is there actually counters in the pool?
apparently there's counters at the entrance. Counters at the entrance?
Well, I've never seen them at Tumen.
There is counters at the entrance, there's automatic counters at the entrance.
So even if you bypass it and go in the side?
I can't say, but there is counters at the entrance. I'm sure there's ways to bypass the counters, but there is counters at the entrance.
And so the figures that you're projecting the cost recovery on, are they the figures since the free entry, or are they the figures that were free entry when nobody was going?
I've been led to believe that was a summation of the figures prior to COVID. Now, I don't know what the situation is.
It actually says it in
I mean, because it's obvious that the fact that the pools became free increased the patronage, and hence increased the ancillary use of things like the canteen. Now, it would be disingenuous, in my view, to base any cost recovery from an entry fee on figures that were derived post free entry.
The figures that were used were based on the 2021-22 season. 22-23 wasn't used because that was disrupted, and it makes that statement on pool at the opening discussion of pool attendance on page 25 of the report.
Well, I mean, I put it to council that those figures should have been based on the patronage when the pool was previously being charged, not.
Look, I hear what you're saying. I'm not sure that those figures, irregardless, pardon me, of what they represent, will impact on deciding what the charge for pool entry is. I think that, as opposed to the recommendations that were provided in the report, I think the proposed resolution restructures those entry fees such a way as they, one, send a signal, price signal to the community that nothing's for free, and secondly, I think they indicate the council and the community's concern about ensuring that families still have reasonable access to the pool. So, Councillor Ham, thank you kindly.
I think it's been 6 years now that we've had free swimming pools. And I will note that I went out to Colliamberley during the week and they've got a big sign on their pool saying free swimming pools. And the comment was made, yes, there's this council called Snowy Valleys Council that does it for free as well. So it has had influence on other people. The difference is that we're we've gone out to the community for special rate variation. Community is spending more money, are being asked for their rates to go up. And, I defer to Councillor Largo, how it's been good, the participation has gone up. However, I think it leaves a sour taste in people's mouth if we're asking for free swimming pools and still there's a part of the community that use the pool, part of the community that doesn't. So our rates are supporting those pools from what is being said in this report. So I've always erred on the side of user pay, and I think this is good to be looking at, please.
I'll just say, if we look at page 28 and the report that actually outlines the expenditure and it identifies that for each time somebody uses one of the pools across our shire, it shows what we are subsidising. So in the Adlon pool, it's $28.96 that we subsidise each person that goes in. At Batlow, we're subsidising each person who goes in $51.68. So you start looking at the amount of money that it's costing our ratepayers to provide that free access. And I think it comes back, yes, we all appreciate that it's never ever going to be at a cost recovery for our pools. But also to the point of what the Mayor has said is that we need to move away from the expectation that everything is free, and we need to understand how do we give some credibility to trying to manage the finances. And I would just like to also acknowledge that in relation to the number of antisocial behaviours within our local rural areas, it was a member of the public who raised with me the concern that they had when they were there with their family and they experienced the bullying of one of the pool attendants by a group of young people who'd gone into the pool. None of them were actually there to swim. None of them even had swimmers or towels, but they did in fact harass and bully one of the young pool attendants. And I don't think that's an appropriate thing, whether that one was reported to the police or not. It's still a matter of behaviour that when something is free, people don't always value or appreciate it.
Any other comments? Anyone? Councillor Arner?
Well, I just can't get my head around it because the finance department has told us time and time again when we receive these reports that we are better off by about $5,000. Between the difference of having a free pool and not, because people are spending inside the venue. Now, it makes absolutely no sense to me to go about chopping this out because of whatever reason. I can't understand. It's been a resounding success. I mean, the libraries are free. Who goes to the library? I mean, I don't go to the library, but I'm paying for it in the rates. And the only reason that it's been subsidised by the ratepayer is because it's legislated to be subsidised by the ratepayer. We can't charge anyone to go in there, but we're happy to have record drownings all over the place. People are drowning left, right and centre because they're obviously, there's difficulties and issues with swimming, that we should be encouraging people to come to the pool in an environment where it's safe. Because we know what happened previously. These kids that weren't coming into the pool were winding up in our rivers and streams in dangerous situations where they weren't being watched and where they weren't capable of navigating difficult waters. Whereas here, I mean, like in Sydney, you can go to Coogee Beach and you can swim in the sea bath for free. I mean, it should just be something that we accept as a civic duty and responsibility, like we do the library. We're not going to reap some massive big financial benefit out of this because the cost analysis has demonstrated that providing the free pool over such a period has been virtually cost neutral. In fact, it's been in our favour.
Can I? Yeah. Mr. General Manager.
Yeah, councillors, I'll just make two comments. I don't know what advice that was provided by the Finance Department in the past, but that differs to the advice that's being provided now. In respect, there have been two issues raised. One about attendance. And again, I'll just bring councillors' attention to the report on page 25, which spells out the patronage numbers initially increased over the first two seasons and then came back to the same following free entry. And I think the data on that was presented at a workshop to council. And also the comment below that revenue dropped significantly, of course, as we would expect following free entry. So in 2016-17, the revenues at that time was $149,000, and in 2017-18 it was $52,000. Expenses have not reduced from the data that's been provided and with the amount of capital that's been invested in the pools over the subsequent years, all of which is spelled out.
I'd like to just say that my recollection of that figure from 2016-27 was 133,000 from when it was presented to us. I was told at our workshop last time that it was 145,000, and now it appears as 149,000. So there's three figures on the one, the one area. So what's correct? Was it correct in 2017 when they said 133,000? Was it correct last week when it was 145,000? Or is the 149,000 correct? I'm really confused that, we've been just, these figures are just being presented to us, and what's the parameters, what's the search being done on them? So why do the figures differ? I don't know. We're making decisions, as I've said before, on figures that we don't really know whether they're correct. Now, I'm not sure whether, Councillor Thompson referred to us that on to the table on page 28. That's only assuming that those entry figures are correct. And I think I would dispute some of those figures. I'm not confident that they're correct.
Look, Councillor Hayes, let me just make one observation here, and Councillor Lara. If we look at the information provided prior to the present time regarding the financial situation of Snowy Valleys Council, I think the veracity of some of those statements leaves a lot to be desired by virtue of the fact that every year we have run at a loss. If we continue to run at a loss, and based on the fact that we have structured an SRV of 36%, 36.5%, based on decisions made in February of last year, and the realisation now that 36% should possibly have been 60% SRV, we can't, even with the SRV today, balance our budget. We are not in a position as an organisation to continue to show largesse with the community's money when we can't even balance the books. And I think that was highlighted by Professor Drew in his draft report. We can debate the veracity of the figures, and I think you pointed out that the last two figures deviate by some $5,000, which in a deficit of nearly $5 million is probably insignificant. The point is the debate about those figures, or is the debate about setting a fee for the pools? And as far as I'm concerned, it's about setting a fee for the pools. Anybody else have a comment to make?
Well, if I may, Mr. Mayor, only to expand on that. I mean, the whole person or reason behind pool fees isn't about behaviour or whatever else. It's really trying to plug the hole. council's been hemorrhaging money to a great extent. We're never going to recoup the cost of running pools, however, you've got to minimise the bleeding. And it's really that simple. I certainly support that adjustment to the proposed fees. I think it makes it quite affordable for people that want to use the pool. And I notice there is an indication there of perhaps coming back with a further concessional rate where it might be deemed appropriate. But look, the bottom line is here, this is about the finances of the council and the very future of the council. You know, it'll be great to have free entry to the pool, and the comment was made about we're subsidising them. We're not subsidising them because we don't have any spare cash to subsidise anything. We're running at a loss because of them. Or not just because of pools, but they're one of the little cogs in the wheel. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's time we should move on and put it to the vote.
All right. If there's no further discussion, if someone want to move, we go back into the council.
I'd just like to.
Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. I just want a few things that have been talked about. I'm not real sure if plugging the hole is, there's enough dimensions in that statement. I think you can raise the fees to the average, which was in the 20s per entry, $20 per entry. That would solve the problem. I mean, that would be how much it would take to make these pools go into black. We're not going to be able to do that. But we've also got the canteen fees, and learn swim, and also the swipe card arrangements. They are also streams of income. And if you raise fees high enough that nobody wants to go to the pool, then we can close the pool down. So there's got to be a medium, a happy place where we don't affect the other streams of income with new fees coming in. There's another point that I'd like to make. I am fond of the idea of having some sort of demonstrate, some sort of, I guess, printed sign or information sign on the front of each pool telling everybody the value that you're getting for this facility that everybody, the whole community is paying for, and what we get for it and what it's worth to us all. So there's some gain value. The teenagers, a fee on the teenagers of a few dollars, I think it's more behavioural than it is anything else. So, yeah.
Very good. Someone moves, it'll be, if there's no further debate, moved by councillor Thompson, seconded by councillor Arnold. We go back into council. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Any further debate?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to actually speak to the motion that I've moved. I take on board everything that Councillor Livermore spoke about in relation to the finances, and I'd also like to acknowledge that the current senior executive staff we have are not the ones who were here this time last year. So the staff who have been working to produce these reports in general are people who are trying to make an understanding of the figures of which they have. So if we want to criticise the figures, then we need to understand that we've also undergone a cyber security attack, which meant that we lost a whole heap of information as well. People are looking to find the information. What this comes back to is for us to actually look at the fact that, one, from all of the comparisons that we've had elsewhere, nobody else has five pools in their shire.
No, that's wrong.
No, that's,
Yeah, that's
so
right.
it's not what the report's.
I've just done a quick look around, and there is the, I'll send it to you. Snow Minari has got 5 25-metre pools. Hilltops has got 4 pools. Three of them 50-metre pool and one a 25-metre pool. Grady Human's got 5 25-metre pools. Everybody around us has got 5 or 4 pools. It's not unusual.
But everybody else around us, apart from Collier, is actually charging pool for its membership. So it comes back to the fact that in a perfect world, everybody expects that they pay, or whoever's paying the rates, then everything that they want should be free. We can't do that. And no, whether you're in private business, whether you're local government or anything else, you cannot afford everything to be free. We pay a significant amount of money to regional or to the libraries for that service to be provided, and yet we're removing that from some of our communities. So I think this is about trying to find some level of equity, but I don't accept the criticism of our current staff who are doing the best they possibly can to produce reports and provide the information to us. So with that, I speak in favour of the motion that we have.
Anybody else have a comment?
I'll speak against it.
Councillor Larder?
This would have to be one of the most significant retrograde steps I think this council has made. I think this is just so bad, so wrong, to be doing this. I mean, if this council was fair income about plugging holes and gaps in finances, you'd close 4 of those pools. And as Councillor Hughes said, you charge $20 or whatever the cost recovery was. This is about virtue signaling. This is about, you know, trying to go out and tear down something that has been absolutely successful and a model for other councils that councils have grabbed hold of. Because what it's done is it's promoted safety in our water. It's promoted children actually being physical and getting off their iPad and getting down to a pool and doing something. It's promoted inclusion. Kids couldn't afford, because their parents were that struck for cash that they couldn't afford $3 to go into the pool. That's what it's done. It's created social inclusion. It's been an absolute success. And all this little tap dancing around the finances, I mean, it's nonsense. I mean, you either get fair income about plugging holes or don't worry about it. You start charging for libraries, you start charging for everything else we do appropriately, because we don't. So to say that we're going to do it here is just complete madness. Why you would want to do it, I don't know, because at the end of the day, what you're going to do now is you're going to chop off a major chunk of people that can't afford to go there, and that's what's going to happen. And those people aren't going to go into the pool. They're not going to spend money in the pool, which they were doing before. You know, they go down there and they buy something from the canteen, and the canteen became a success, and the swim programs became a success, and everything else became a success because we had a vibrant hub. And we were able to get grants and other things because of it. I just cannot believe that we're entertaining this, and that you're actually trying to kid yourselves by thinking that you're making some magnificent financial decision. All you're doing is tinkering around the edges with a social policy that's been successful. If you want to get fair income, keep Avalon Pool open, close all the others, and then you might be cost effective and charge $20 to get in there. Have everyone go down to Avalon.
Councillor Ham?
Could I, sorry, this is out of committee now, but I just ask the Director of Infrastructure what has happened to the pools over the last 3 or 4 years, because when we do talk of pools, the improvements have been quite outstanding. And yeah.
Through the mayor, if you refer to page, 28, you see the level of capital placements or we've undertaken pools. So this has included various things like the new facilities at Cancoden recently, new splash pads at Cancoden, Patlow, Tumbarumba and Tumut, various other things. And then as per the last council meeting, the upcoming works plan at Patlow, Tumbarumba and Tumut around some safety works and environmental requirements that are needed to be attended to. So, yeah, we have invested significantly through grant funding in the last 5 or 6 years.
And so do you think the participation of the pools would be greater anyhow because of this?
The works undertaken have probably increased the demographic that can use the pools.
Thank you.
Can I just point out too that there are 2 other points.
I'd like to speak.
Just a minute. Have you finished, Councillor?
I have.
Councillor Thompson.
There are two other points to the motion. It's not just about setting the fees. The two additional points that go underneath is about the provision of a further report, and then also to, at the end of the next swimming season, to undertake an analysis of the revenue. So this is not just about imposing the fees. This is actually about understanding a lot of the things that we don't understand currently. Just to point that out.
Councillor Howes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The way I see it, this has the potential to disenfranchise the most vulnerable members of our community, and those are the members of the community who, particularly in Tumut, I think, who can't afford to use the pool and who have been using it in the last few years. So that's been good, you know, when they've been able to, due to COVID and the like. But I think that's been a great thing. So what you're doing is you're moving those people somewhere else if they can't afford to be at the pool. So they might be down the river or whatever. So there's a risk there. So that's an issue. The other thing is we know what a wonderful success the rail trail's been for the community of Rosewood, and it's just bolstered, you know, businesses and the like, and they're dependent on that rail trail. Well, to a certain extent, so has the township of Adelong, because Adelong is the closest to the towns to the west of us, and a lot of those communities choose to come to Adelong during the summer, and a lot of the Adelong's economy is now in the summer based around that. So what you're doing is you're actually, you know, it's as was it Warren Buffett that said, you know, price is what you pay and value is what you get. And I know Councillor Thompson also quoted Oscar Wilde the other day when she said, you know, it's the value and price. So she talked about that as well. So I think we've got to be aware of what we're doing. You know, you move something and something else is affected along the way. It has been a great social experiment. It has been very much triple bottom line. And I'm very proud of what we've been able to do, what the council has been able to do. I think it's a great example of how to do things well. It hasn't, according to the figures that I've been given over the years, it hasn't been a great loss of any money at all.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carry. 9.2, statement of investments. Any questions? Page 34. If not, someone move the motion. Moved by Councillor Livermore, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any debate? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We now go to item 10.1, Southern Regional Planning Panel.
Mayor, I'll move the recommendations, and at point 3, I'd actually like to nominate councillors Armour and also Hughes to be the additional councillors.
Can I just ask Councillor Hughes if they're prepared to accept that nomination? Is there a seconder? Thank you both. Is there a second to the resolution? That amendment? Councillor Livermore? Is there any discussion?
Are these our nomination, the council's nomination to this, or are we already assured positions on this? And what state does this produce?
Yeah, I can advise. Council provides a pool of representatives, and the state, when they form the planning panels, select which members from the list to use in particular matters.
Mr. Mayor, the other.
Does that clarify your question? Councillor Thompson?
just to also clarify that in point 4, where it says, any appointment of up to 4 council appointed representatives,
It's now up to 3.
up to 3.
I believe. We've now got additional councillors.
Yeah, it's just,
Mr Mayor, just to clarify, that means we'll have 3 councillors on this, Livermore, Hughes and Armour.
That's correct. In the panel selection, right? That doesn't mean they all serve on the panel at any one time. The panel nominates who they want to sit on the panel. And Snowy Valleys Council is proposing 3 councillors and the potential for 3 community members to serve on as part of the selection for the panel, right? And we're going to the community to try and ascertain if we can find 3 members who qualify to sit on the panel as well, right?
So it's a skill, excuse me, Smith, it's a skill-based council,
Sorry?
skills-based.
Well, you would hope that you would get, yeah, look,
Yeah.
I don't really.
I'm just
know the
wondering whether the
criteria.
councillors have to put their skills, like, do they have to put in their resume and?
Oh, I'm not sure about that. You have to.
Yes, we have to nominate the capacity of the councillors to be able to sit on the panel has to be submitted to the department.
Sure. Thank you.
Very good. Any further questions? If not, I'll put the amended resolution with those slight amendments to it. All those in favour? Against? Carried. 10.2, Service New South Wales for Business. Is there any questions? Ask someone to move the recommendation. Councillor Livermore. Any debate? If not, we'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We'll now go to 10.3, Aerodrome Draft Master Plan. Any discussion? If not, someone move the recommendation. Councillor Ham, seconded by
Could I
Councillor.
have a discussion?
You can speak to it. Most definitely.
Thank you. Just, the community feedback, I just want to look at on page 96, 10.7. I just thought the person that made the comment about, getting water from Tumut out to the aerodrome and out to the, estate out there is something that council should consider. I'd like to see something like that put on the advocacy plan, for future, not that we've got the money for it or anything, but I thought it was a good plan.
I don't disagree with you, but I do think that I think we need to review our advocacy plan, and this should be part of that review as far as I'm concerned.
That's all I ask,
I
is
think
just to,
What we need to be mindful of in our advocacy plan is what are the costs? What are the recurrent recurring costs? And if you look at the potential out there, what is the potential and what is the cost? And we don't have either of those. But yes, by all means, I can see a point in deliberating on that. Any further issues that anyone wishes to raise?
Mr Mayor, before that's put, can we just clarify who moved and seconded the word, please?
Councillor Hain. Not moved. Councillor Rana.
And seconded?
Who?
wasn't it councillor Ham moved it, councillor
I thought
Marks?
Councillor Ham. moved,
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Rana second.
they have to go with that.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Now go to the terms of reference for the floodplain risk management advisory committee, Tumut and Tumbarara, 10.4. Someone move the recommendation? Councillor Thompson. Councillor. Thank you, Councillor. Any questions? Any debate? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. 10.5, Draft companion and non-companion animal policies. Someone move? Ding, 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 ding. Councillor Ham, councillor Lara. Any debate?
Just a question. Just in relation to the consideration and introduction of a cat curfew between the hours of 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. How is that intended to be regulated? No, regulated. It's like,
Well, you have cats.
The cat patrol.
Cat patrol.
Well, you have a ranger.
between the hours of 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. I just remember a comment made once that be careful what you put into the policies, because if you're not actually going to be able to enforce them, then why put them in there? But anyway, that's.
This means you may need to take a torch with you.
But it's out on public exhibitions.
And the point being that if you need it, it's there. If you don't need it, you don't use it. Anyway, take that comment on board, councillor Thompson. Any further debate? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, carried. 10.6.
Excuse me, it's point of order, have we done 10.3?
The Garrett,
That's when I brought up the water.
Beg your pardon.
you had any concern?
It's true.
Planning proposal? No. Would someone move the recommendation? Yeah. Councillor Ham? Any debate on
Probably in relation, through you, Ms. Mayor, just in relation for an understanding of anybody who may actually be watching the live stream, to understand that this is a parcel of land that is being looked at being developed, and so it's not contrary to what any of the surrounding uses are. It's an opportunity to actually formalise what is required to enable any development there.
any further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? We'll now go to 10.7. Councillor Barker is leaving the room. Expressions of interest. Right, 10.7. Someone move the recommendation.
Yeah.
Councillor,
I
Livermore.
believe that there's customers to,
a second.
Yeah, second.
Councillor Hughes. Debate, councillor
well, I'm happy to
Livermore?
lead off. Yeah, look, in general terms, I'm pretty comfortable with the development. Within the draft conditions of consent, there's a condition there relating to the exterior finish of the container, which is basically to make it, more aesthetically pleasing. I think there's enough information in the statement that accompanies the application and the application documentation to see that to me, the developer's quite happy to go ahead with the timber treatment and so on it, or even a modwood, which is a imitation timber. They're all acceptable these days. I'd just suggest that the term or similar be taken out of that condition, because to me, that's an undefined term. It can mean absolutely anything, and I don't think that's taking anything away from what's proposed.
Councillor Ham?
Have you finished? You finished?
Yeah.
And I'd just like to, right at the end of the report, it says for the food and drink premises to be allocated from 6 to 6. I'd like to see that till 9 p.m.
Councillors, if you don't mind, just so we can get this right for the minutes. So the words "or similar" be removed from which condition?
So the condition that relates to the,
Lightwood.
Are you able to tell us the number of conditions?
It's supposed to be the actual condition number 6.
number 6, is it?
Condition number 6. And the next one, sorry, councillor Ham.
Rather than being from 6 to 6, that's 6 to 9 p.m. 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Operating hours, is that what you refer to as?
That's
Number
correct.
Operating hours to clause 9 be amended to 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Perfect.
And
I do have one concern that someone might correct me here, Nick, you might be able to help me here. Where the access to the container, for want of a better term, is along that wall. At a certain point, that wall becomes more than 1 metre and would require a balustrade. Can you help me in coming to the conclusion that the whole of that area has a balustrade, because there still exists the potential to step back off the wall and suffer some sort of injury?
Through the Mayor, in terms of page number 90, in the attachments, the area fronting Fitzroy Street, in front of the container, and also approximately about 5 metres setback on the Richmond Street side, will have a timber balustrade along that facade. The wall is actually raised. It's raised about 1 metre above the ground, and it is appropriate to provide that timber balustrade. And also, there's a wire treatment placed underneath that actual rail as well.
What I'm getting at is, if you look at that, what's the name? Oh, yes, it says balustrade. I was just looking at the corner where the road accesses Fitzroy Street. There's a section there that is less than 1 metre, and legally it wouldn't require a balustrade. I see it as a potential hazard. That's all. Very good, thank you very much for that. Are there any questions?
about the traffic, Mr. Mayor,
Councillor Hughes?
does everybody else consider it worthwhile to insist on the traffic flow to be formalised in from Richmond and out?
Would you like to respond to that question?
Through the Mayor, at this point in time, the access and egress to this development is via Richmond Street, so you can drive in and drive out of Richmond Street. And the same with Fitzroy Street. Both access points are able to be accessed and egressed from those areas. There is a motion from the applicant being put forward at a later date that they may wish to include a drive-through component. Now, that would be subject to obviously council's consent and also the concurrence of Transport for New South Wales. And then if that was to be pursued, they would be seeking to provide an entrance via Richmond Street and an egress via Fitzroy Street. So it would change it to being one way.
So clarification on that, should that be a later request, that would be another DA that would come before council?
Through the Mayor, that is correct. So it would be a modification to the existing DA, which would come back to full council, or you could lodge a separate DA.
I'm just through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm wondering if it's worthwhile putting that in motion now in this state, because we don't know how.
Yeah.
I think it should be applied now.
Would you like to make an advice there?
Through the Mayor, at this stage, our engineers have looked at this proposal. They have considered the traffic movements both into and out of the actual development itself. They haven't suggested any conditional requirement to have it one way. But if the councillors were in mind to move that way, there'd be nothing stopping them doing so.
Any point of view around the table?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it hasn't been a concern up till now. It's been operating for a long time as the former RTA and it's been operating as a business now for some time, hasn't caused any issues. Nothing's come to the traffic committee. So I would say just suck it and see what happens later on.
Sorry, with councillor,
Can I,
councillor.
I'd that we move into
Probably a
committee.
good idea.
Yeah, I'll move.
It doesn't really.
We're going to committee, seconded by councillor Hen. Moved by councillor Thompson. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Carry on, councillor.
The RTO, or whatever the particular financials at the time names was a one-way arrangement, and that's the way they behaved. And I'm sure they filed many an later just by the first return. So that was the design, and I understand all RTAs were built with the same intention. So it's never been a problem up until now because the rules already been there and it's already been applied. The problem is that intersection there starts getting really busy, especially now with efforts to come to a coffee shop, which works until 9, which is dark. I think it's worth it. Making sure.
No.
Mr. General Manager.
Yeah, councillors, can I encourage caution in changing the traffic flow off the floor of council? As Mr. Wilton has stated, there has been a requirement from the Department of Transport for a traffic planning study if they wish to utilise it as a drive-through, and there's been an indication of an intent to come back with a further application, at which time the study will need to be done, and you'll be detailing, you'll be making a decision of facts to change the situation now. Remember that if you address what seems to be an issue in one point, you might create an issue in the other. Because if you make it left turn only heading back from the Fitzroy Street and people are trying to go to the right, they then have to head back somewhere else and do a U-turn and go in the opposite direction. Likewise, you'll have more traffic turning in and out potentially of Richmond Street that you might not want to be travelling in and out of Richmond Street. So I would suggest to council that you may be better off approving this, as Mr. Wilton said, with the current transport arrangements and addressing any changes as part of a transport plan with a transport planning study to support.
Any further comments?
Yeah, I take on board your comments, Mr. General Manager, thank you. The concern that I have is that the area where the parking now is taking place is also going to have traffic coming and going. So it's now becoming a dual area of pedestrian and also car parking, and there's also at times displays out in that area. So I have some concerns of just the safety for the pedestrian access within that area. And as I agree with Councillor Hughes insofar as if you know that cars are coming in one way and out the other, then that's where you're looking for the traffic. I just have concerns that increasing the amount of traffic in there, the pedestrian traffic and traffic going each way, as well as being an area for display, I just would encourage the traffic committee whoever does the report, to look carefully at the shared use of that. I know that even in other areas, even sometimes they have it signposted as to a maximum of however many kilometres. I just think it's a shared space that needs to be very, very carefully managed.
Any further discussion? If not, I think someone moved that we go back into full council. Councillor Hand, Councillor Hughes. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Right. So what we have now is.
No, don't go there.
No.
Sorry. That's right. You're just going to go sit over there.
We have 3 amendments, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? Would you like to enunciate what the proposed amendments are?
I believe there were 2, unless I've
Well,
missed.
we're talking also, there was a proposal about
The ones that we have
traffic
recorded,
movement.
well, the ones that we have recorded that the words or similar be removed from condition number 6 to avoid any doubt, and that the operating hours in clause 9 be amended to 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. We didn't record any change to the transport movements unless we've missed that. I thought it was discussed but not changed.
Happy with that? Are the mover and seconder happy with those amendments?
Can we just, I know we can't change the amendment for this one, but just should a further development application be provided for the drive-through, that the pedestrian traffic and also the impact of the flow of traffic be considered carefully.
That would be considered as a.
Well, that's a matter,
That's a matter of
that's a matter,
procedure, isn't it?
that's a matter that we can take on notice for the future rather than bring the resolution.
Righto, no further debate? If not, with those amendments, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Very good. Oh, do you want your vote?
No, it's a planning, no.
Oh, it's a planning. We need to take a, right?
It was carried unanimously, so we have everyone. Thank you.
We've got everyone except.
Oh, sorry.
Everyone who's here, righto?
Yeah.
Okay, righto. Thank you very much for that, Councillor Thompson, drawing my scant attention to it. Development application, residential alterations to lot 32.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, with the permission of the council, I'd like to withdraw that report. There has been further correspondence from the applicant. And we would prefer, or I would prefer, if the planning department would say to resolve a number of issues before we brought that report to council.
Is council agreeable to that?
Yes.
Right, someone move that way? Moved by councillor Nama, second by councillor Thompson. Put the motion. All those in favour? Are you in favour, James? Good, thank you. Councillor 10.9, draft Tulip Town Centre traffic plan. Someone move? Is there a sec, is there a move? I take it, sure, councillor Hand. Second? Councillor Lara. Thank you very much. Righto, any comments that will need to be made? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Thank you. We'll go to 11.1, minutes of the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee, 8th of March. Is there a mover? Councillor Livermore, is there a seconder? Councillor Lara, any debate? Any discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Counts carried. 11.2, minutes of the Tumut Aerodrome Committee. Mover, councillor Lara. Seconded by councillor Hand. Any discussion?
I will just make a comment there,
Councillor Lara.
I think it would be good if the council derives a position in relation to solving the problems of the Orchard Estate in relation to the aerodrome upgrade. I think that was the overwhelming sentiment of that committee as well. So just so that council's aware of whatever we can do to tidy all that up.
I couldn't agree with you more. The more you look at the Orchard Estate, how it came about, and the impacts of the runway extension are going to be something that we need to address once and for all. I think that is in the thinking of the organisation. We can't let the situation either get worse or remain the same. Part of this proposal has got to be to try and tidy up the issues. Thank you. Any other comment?
Just a comment on that, Mr. Mayor. I was of the understanding there'd been some correspondence with representatives from the Orchard Estate. And might be mistaken here, but I thought the ball was back in their court to organise a time. Council representatives and so on to go out in front of me and sort of work through some of those issues.
Do you want to comment
The
there,
last workshop time.
Mr. General Manager?
Excuse me, councillors.
Yeah,
I've
some of my work.
Yeah, I've got one here. It's not helping. There was discussion in this matter around the acquisition process for land to allow the extension of the airport. There had been an approach of the Orchard State Commission to discuss an alternative. What was discussed with council was the fact that we needed to continue on the current pathway for the current acquisition. And if there was to be discussions about boundary adjustments, etc., it needed to be dealt with separately to and outside of that acquisition process because of the timing issues. So that's where it was left, and that's where it is at the moment. I haven't been back to the people from the Orchard Estate that saw the meeting since that time. So that's where it's at the moment.
Is there a general perception around the table?
Can I just add to what the general manager has just said as well? Like the discussion at the workshop where that presentation was made in relation to acquisition of land also spoke, because we did look at the potential of acquiring all of the land, and it was pointed out to us that you can, within the acquisition part, we can only acquire the portions of lands that are required for the extension of the runway. So as part of acquisition, we can't decide that we will acquire all of that property. So, but it was fairly clearly spelled out on the day by the gentleman who did that presentation.
However, there are small ways of addressing this problem. And we need to be mindful that we don't create an extension of the problem that exists there at present. And if we need to address it by other means, we should be open to those discussions. So I think that probably just sets the scene as to what we're trying to achieve, not only by increasing and improving the airstrip of Turin, but to also in the same voice try and in some way, and I'm not sure what that way is, to address the issues that exist on the Orchard Estate. So, thank you for that, Councillor Brown. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Confidential? I don't believe there is any. Is that correct?
That's correct.
In the event of being no confidential report, I'll now close the meeting unless someone has anything else of an urgent nature. If not, the meeting, I'll close the meeting at
At 3:08.
3:08. Thank you very much for all for your attendance and goodbye to the assembled throng.